me, several months ago about organizing a storytelling event, I thought to myself, now, how hard could that be? I mean, all I needed to do is, find 6 local people that were willing to stand up in front of a room full of people they knew and tell a personal story. Well, apparently it's true that after death, standing up in public and speaking is people's second greatest fear. So what I thought was going to be the easy part turned out to be a bit of an adventure. But here we are, 6 brave souls in front of you tonight, ready to beguile you with their stories. Now, to be honest, I don't think any of them really understood what they were fully, signing up for. Because, it wasn't exactly just show up and tell a story. No, there were conversations. What's your story? Then there was much coaching around the writing. And then there were rewrites. And then more rewrites. And then rehearsals. But I can assure you, these folks have dug deep. And what you're about to hear this afternoon are stories that are honest, personal, and very real. So, I invite you to lean back, relax, turn off your phones, do that now, and let's enjoy some old-fashioned storytelling. All right, so our first storyteller comes to us with a pocket full of wild herbs and possibly a mushroom. But she swears it's mostly safe. She's equal parts forest and firelight, a midnight swimmer who has a talent for wandering the woods, befriending fungi, and hugging trees. She's a cookbook writer, a caterer, a grief counselor, and just enough of a magician to convince you that a dandelion salad could be a life-altering event. So please, give a warm welcome to the always entertaining Nikki Fotheringham.
This was going to be the trip of a lifetime. I pictured our arrival at camp, a small table, 2 camping chairs, cocktails, maybe something citrus, a little umbrella just for vibes. The sun would set slowly, theatrically, as though it had rehearsed. The flamingos would blur into the sunset, pink blending into magenta, blending into orange. I would sigh wistfully as an all-knowing sense of wisdom and peace settled over me, but there were no cocktails, there was no sunset, and it smelled a little like betrayal. The longest trip I ever took was a drive through southern and central Africa. Travel's always been an integral part of my personality, not in a passport stamp bragging rights kind of way, but in a deeply held belief that transcendence awaited just beyond the next dusty bend. You see, travel connected me to the natural world in a profound way. I loved the jungles of my youth, the quiet of the desert, the breathtaking beauty of a big old mountain. And because the only place I had felt that sense of peace had been in nature. So surely, if I found the most beautiful natural places, lasting peace and happiness would be mine. Now, I had grown up in South Africa, so the dramatic landscapes, the incredible wildlife, the cultures that could reroute your understanding of humanity, that was just another Tuesday. What I wanted, what I needed, was flamingos. Now, not just a few flamingos. I wanted clouds of flamingos. I wanted the kind of pink that reprograms your brain. So, Lake Nakuru, Kenya was the destination, a place where flamingos gathered in biblical numbers and turned the horizon into something that looks a little like cotton candy. We drove towards the lake with mounting excitement. So the road was a little isolated. Actually, it was miles of nothing. Absolutely awful roads. Volcanoes lurking in the distance. A landscape that was less remote and more actively unwelcoming. I was euphoric. This kind of suffering meant payoff. Now, flamingos thrive in soda lakes, which are volcanic and violently salty. So salty that the only thing that really lives there is cyanobacteria, which gives the flamingos their favorite snack and that wonderful pink coloration. But it's so hostile that nothing much else lives there. No animals, insects, or fish. But we soldiered on down dusty roads, so bumpy you felt seasick, past the skeletons of cars and trucks that just weren't up to the task. I was delighted. Surely, the tougher the road, the longer the travel, the greater the reward. Transcendence was mine. Finally, we arrived. I jumped out of the truck. I was so excited. The smell hit first. It wasn't just bad, it was aggressive. A stench so thick, it coated the back of your throat. You see, what I hadn't accounted for was the reality of tens of thousands of birds. Birds that eat continuously, birds that excrete continuously. And the thing they don't tell you in the travel magazines? Dead birds. Yep. Even flamingos die, and because the lake is so hostile, there's no cleanup crew, no scavengers, no vultures, just time. So the remains get trampled and compressed and absorbed back into the lake like a very pink, very sad recycling program. And then there's the ghost skeletons. Dead birds, some mid-step, some mid-ponder, all frozen in chalky repose like they'd been arranged by a museum intern with a very dark sense of humor. Before me stretched a hellscape of screaming, stinking pink. Night came, and with it the realization that we could not camp here. The air was so rank there'd be no outside activities. So we just huddled in the back of the truck, windows cracked just so that we didn't suffocate, but we could not escape that stench. And sure, there were tons of flamingos. They even looked beautiful, flying up against the sunrise of a breaking dawn. I mean, I try to feel a sense of awe and peace, but all I felt was nausea and a deep sense of regret. Morning came and we fled, and as those flamingos, and thankfully the stench, receded in the rearview mirror, I was struck with a really deep sense of disappointment, because I thought that if the road was long enough and tough enough and the nature was pretty enough, that I would be rewarded with a sense of peace and cocktails. Since then, I've come to understand that peace isn't going to fall into your lap while you're standing under a waterfall. Instead, it comes with knowing yourself, choosing kindness, with doing the work, with understanding that love is a verb. It takes work and dedication. And while my sense of peace may not have lived in that fetid pink cloud, I do find it now in simpler things like feeding the birds, walking in the woods, from the people in this room. Always with love, always with kindness, and the understanding that not everything is pretty and pink. Our next storyteller has spent 31 years in Warkworth, basically making him a local legend. He's been partnered for 45 years, proving he's the master of long-term commitment. He collects everything from wind-up toys to bunnykins to Fiesta, where basically if it sits on a shelf, he has it. He once met Andy Warhol, has a serious sweet tooth for trifle, and a healthy fear of snakes and Brussels sprouts. So please give a big round of applause for a man who has survived decades of partnership, a lifetime of collecting, and a run-in with a pop icon. It's Bob Leahy.
I used to be boring. My work life especially was beige, very beige. I was a banker, suit every day, numbers all day, managing numbers while quietly hating them. Every day was soul destroying. And in case you didn't know, bankers are amongst the most boring people on earth. I fit right in. But then things changed. Life intervened like a thunderbolt. In 1993, I was diagnosed with HIV, the AIDS virus. At that time, there were no effective treatments. 0 chance of surviving. A diagnosis didn't change your life, it ended it. Marion and I had already lost a lot of friends, so. Looking back, did I panic? Not really. No, I handled it really well, which still surprises me. Unfortunately, though, HIV isn't just a disease. It comes with tons of stigma. Shame, secrecy, rejection. Who do you tell? Do you tell anybody? Or do you hide in plain sight? I told Marion right away. Friends too. My main problem, though, was work. I was a junior executive at CIBC. The guys I worked with were straight, married, they played golf. They had no idea I was gay, let alone HIV positive. And I didn't want to tell them. I'm brave, but not that brave. So for a while, I lived a double life. I had this huge secret, pretending everything was okay, when it clearly wasn't, and it was exhausting and taking a toll on my health. The situation was untenable. I had to tell them. So I fessed up, and I did it. I told them. As it happened, the telling didn't go too badly. And I left work that same day and never came back. And honestly, it felt amazing. And that's when my life changed, really changed. That's when the lemons started turning to lemonade. Not long after, I started on a clinical trial for a new treatment that looked promising. Pills, more pills. But would they keep me alive? Turns out they did. And it turns out there was life after banking. So I thought, maybe I should do something useful. I signed up to volunteer at the AIDS Committee of Toronto. I loved it immediately. I really did. I liked the look too. Black t-shirts, 501 button-fly jeans, big Doc Martens boots. Kind of gay, right? Kind of hot. But it wasn't just the clothes. The suit had said, conform. The new look said, fight back, act up, silence equals death. So, and looking back, it wasn't just the clothing, it was a new identity. At ACT, I worked the front desk. H Committee of Toronto, can I help you? That was me. On the other end were people who were scared of dying, had been rejected by their families, and it felt good helping them. For the first time, I thought, this is my dream job. Not a banker, a receptionist. Fast forward a decade, the treatments were working, I was still living. I had my own online column. I became an editor and then a publisher. And I became well known in the HIV community, outspoken, knowledgeable, a bit of an influencer, even before influencers were a thing. I founded a movement in Canada called U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. It means if you're on treatment, you stay healthy and you can't pass the virus on. Now, the skeptics were everywhere. Organizations, peers, doctors, governments, almost everyone was too afraid to believe the research and the science. So it was an uphill struggle, but activists are fighters, and we don't give up. We pushed and we pushed and we pushed. And eventually, we won. We won. In 2018, Canada became the first country in the world to adopt our message. I stood on Parliament Hill, side by side. I stood on Parliament Hill side by side with the Federal Health Minister as she announced the government's new position, U equals U. Something else. I'll never forget that moment. It was a triumph for the community, and yes, a personal triumph for me too. My U equals U journey took me around the world. And I received recognition too, even two medals, one from Queen Elizabeth, the other from King Charles. Not bad for a former banker. But those medals weren't the biggie. The biggie was changing the narrative around HIV, helping people feel better about themselves, that they weren't a threat to anyone. And in doing so, I felt better about myself too. So yes, HIV was a thunderbolt, but it took my life from beige to vivid, from boring to exciting. It was a lemon I never asked for, but I embraced it and truly made lemonade. So here's my final advice. Choose your career wisely, but whatever you do, don't become a banker.
When I was a kid, I flat out hated my Bible. That's what Macedonians call grandmothers. I know that's a very hot take, but hear me out. I can still see her pale white face wrapped tight in its black babushka. She was in a perpetual state of mourning. She was goth before goth was a thing. From head to toe, covered in black. Sweaters, stocking shoes, the whole bit. Her English was creative. She jumbled up stuff in funny ways, which always made me giggle. But she was from the old country, with old country thinking and old-timey vengeance. She was always watching me, always. When I was 10, my mother died, leaving my mama to take care of me. That was about the time she started sending me to the grocery store. It wasn't that far away, but it felt far away. Before I left, she pulled a tissue from her sweater, refolded it, and poured a big giant glob of spit into it. That was her time device for me. Get back before it dries. No watch, no phone, just a giant glob of grandmother's spit. Drying on a tissue, that. Ay, ay, ay. I had no idea how long grandmother's spit took to dry. Who does? That was the terror of it. So I take off across the street, excuse me, and I knew she was watching. I could feel her eyes on my back. So I'd cross the street, pass all the neighbors' houses, and get to the stairs. A giant 2-story concrete monolith that made my legs burn at the sight of them. At the top, I glanced back. She was there. She was always there. For a young boy, the route was full of temptation. A creek, a park with swings and monkey bars, just everything more fun than groceries. So I'd get a lotto ticket for her and some candy for me, and grab the groceries and head back. I could still feel those plastic bags cutting into my fingers. But that ticking time bomb of spit was there. Ticking, ticking, ticking. The banter was simple. Don't slow down, don't mess up, get back before it dries. As I was an only child, after my mom passed, it was just the two of us, a grieving old woman and a young boy. And all my dad could do was just go back to work at his restaurant. As you can imagine, Bubbles' rules tightened after my mom passed. The watching intensified. Excuse me. The other kids, whom she thought were all bums, they got to keep playing. I became her grief tool. We shared the same pain and loss, but she put her grief on my shoulders as well. And she blamed my dad for my mom's death. She didn't know what lupus was. So she cursed him nonstop. And this made things much, much worse for me. So one time in the middle of the night, I woke up and found her sitting in my closet, chanting, taunting my father through the wall. Kuche, pishe, makare. It felt demonic. I had no idea how long this was going on for. Sadly, I was the buffer between them. Just a 10-year-old boy playing peacekeeper instead of Lego. When my father finally kicked her out, I was 13, and who could blame him? I felt relieved. Who could blame me? No more refereeing. The new routine was simple. Dad back to work with his long hours, and me abandoned again, feeling more alone than ever. 30 or so years later, I'd visit Babu in the home. Her dementia had hollowed her out by then, and the staff had lost all her black clothes and dressed her in these soft pastels from the lost and found. I thought I walked into the wrong room. I was like, it's the first time in my life I had seen her in color. She looked younger, happier. Goth girl was gone. But we get into these same looping conversations. Kogo si ženiš? I am married, Babo. Dobro, treba da imaš dečinja. I have 2 boys, Babo. Dobro, treba da imaš čupa. We're trying for a girl, Babo. And a few seconds later, it would start again. Koga kisi? She's been gone now for over 10 years. I'm a little older than she was when my dad kicked her out. And I think about her for a while. I'm twice as old as my mom ever got. And I think about her for a while. And everything she's missed in my life. All the things. My marriage, those kids. My failures, my accomplishments, everything. And you know, I still don't know how long it takes for grandmother's spit to dry. But I'm sure it took me longer to get to the store back. She knew that. She wasn't guessing. The spit wasn't some weird Macedonian superstition. It was a way for her to make time visible to a boy who didn't understand it. A way to control the one thing in her life she still could. After her husband died in World War II, disappearing from her life. After her daughter died at 28, disappearing from her life. After my father kicked her out, I disappeared from her life. After her entire world collapsed again, she was left alone in a country with a language she didn't speak. But I understand that spit now, a little bit more. It echoes in me. Come back, come back, come back. Don't disappear like everything else. Because of her, I am rarely late. I hate being rushed. And to me, the journey matters as much as the destination. I used to think she was mean, but now I believe it was just her fear, twisted into love. And sometimes I catch myself standing out a window, staring out longer than I need to. Thank you. After one whirlwind weekend in Warkworth, that's a lot of W's. Lisa and her partner Julie decided they just weren't visiting, they were moving in. Lisa proudly, I'm gonna have to use the glasses for this one. Lisa proudly carries on the town's tradition of excelling at wildly different endeavors. She's a graduate of both law school and clowning class, which means she can either defend you in court or distract the jury with a closing act instead of a closing argument. And while she has an English degree, she's most proud of being fluent in Scarberian slang. So, please give it up for this former Scarberian who is no hoser, Lisa Kelly.
I never wanted to hurt my kids or my husband, but I knew that that was what was going to happen if I dared to live my true and authentic self. Here I was in my late 30s, married with 2 young children, falling in love with a woman. I had to admit the truth. I'm a lesbian. So many things finally made sense in my life. It's like getting glasses and realizing those green blurs in the backyard are actually leaves on trees. I knew that things were getting clearer for me, but they were about to drastically change focus for those around me. Suppressing your true self and keeping a secret takes an enormous amount of energy. I was on high alert with the secret, a secret that at the time, if it got out, could have put me in some danger. Remember, this was well before the age of heated rivalry. I was raised Catholic. I went through the Catholic school system in the 70s and 80s. I received strong messages that a good life for a woman is a woman in service of others. There was not a lot of encouragement in the 70s and 80s to explore myself, to figure out a life that would make me happy and fulfilled. Put on top of that that would be a gay life? Well, you see my confusion. I did carry shame in the fact that I didn't figure myself out earlier and that people would be hurt by my decision. I lived a life where I knew the privilege of living as a straight woman, and I was about to cast myself out to be an outsider. It felt very painful knowing that my kids were going to pay the cost for my honesty. But despite the pressure to stay in that closet, I knew I couldn't. I knew I had to act. And so I came out. I came out to my husband, I came out to my kids, I came out to my sisters and my best friends. My parents were dead by this point, so at least I didn't have to worry about killing them with the news. I moved out, I moved down 7 doors, and we started a new configuration of our family, with the kids being at each house half-time. Now you hear about a coming out story, but what I didn't realize is you never come out just once. You come out to strangers, you come out to colleagues, you come out to a fundraising audience, you even come out to the family dentist. As a child of a very messy divorce, it was really important to me that people understood that if I needed to update my address because I was getting divorced and moving out, it wasn't that I hated my husband. It wasn't that my kids were in a house of hostility. I wanted them to know why this was happening, which meant that I came out to people that I might not have otherwise come out to at the time I did come out to them. I was at the dentist. My mouth was frozen. I had had work done. My cheeks were full of gauze. I was telling the dentist that she needed to update my address, that I was moving out and getting divorced. I told her, I'm a thespian, a lesbian, a lesbian. Here I was, newly out, sounding like I was announcing a career change in the theater. She looked at me awkwardly, took it in, and then kindly updated my address. I was relieved. What I also didn't understand about coming out is that it wasn't just me doing it. It was my whole family. My kids were about 5 and 7 at the time. They kind of understood that men could love men and women could love women, but interestingly didn't really have an appreciation that you could be gay all on your own. When I came out, my son looked at me puzzledly and said, but who are you a lesbian with? It was a little bit fearful and confusing to try and coach them through their own coming out, because I wanted them to understand that being gay was something wonderful, something to be proud of, but something you actually had to be cautious about telling people. That's a contradiction that even adults find hard to hold in their minds. I told them about the symbols for our community. Rainbows, unicorns, what great logos we have, eh? They knew that if there was a rainbow sticker on a business, it meant that those people were gay or that they welcomed people who were gay. One day, I was walking down the street with my daughter, and she saw a rainbow sticker on a flower shop. Look, Mom! They're gay too! She shouts on the busy sidewalk while people turn and look. I froze. My heart was beating. My face went flushed. Here I was, holding the secret in and really managing who knew. And she was putting it on full blast to the whole street. I looked around. My eyes darted, my heart beating. And then I looked at her. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't afraid. She was proud. And so I knew in that moment, my job wasn't to teach her secrecy. It was to get on her page and take the risk to be loud and proud. My son, on the other hand, had a bit of a different approach. Being a naturally shy child, he never volunteered that he had a lesbian mom. He later told me that he never lied. He would tell someone if they asked, but it was never of his own initiation. It's very interesting now. He's almost 30. He's part of a trivia group that's made up mostly of the queer community. And they're so comfortable with him and he with them that they call him their honorary lesbian. There were turning points in my coming out journey and my worry about the kids. And one in particular comes to mind.
When my daughter was in grade 2, she had to do a presentation on her family tree. My partner Julie was living with us at that time, and the kids saw her as a parent. So my daughter put her presentation together and left to give her presentation. I was in knots. Again, I knew that there was nothing wrong with the family configuration that she was going to share, that she was going to out herself and me in that presentation. But I knew that kids could be cruel. So when she came home, I wanted to know what happened. So, how'd it go? Fine. Darn. I need more information. How do I casually get some? How do I push a little further? Well, did anyone think it was interesting that you have 2 moms? No. Lucy has 3 moms. Now let's be clear. Lucy doesn't have 3 moms. She doesn't even have 2 moms. Lucy's just competitive. I had long feared that living my true and honest life would come at a cost to my children. And that day, at least, having 2 moms wasn't something to hide. It was actually something that some other kids envied. That gave me a deep sense of relief, knowing that the kids will be all right. Thank you. And so now let me introduce a man who is living the dream in the bustling metropolis of Dartford, where he lives in a straw bale house that's not only eco-friendly, but it also is wolf-proof. He was raised on a dairy farm, but he later traded his milking stool in for a massage table, bringing his farm home strength to the big city, where he still works part-time. Adding to his eclectic resume, he has climbed the pyramids and even appeared in a movie with Peter O'Toole. So please welcome a man who has truly plowed his own path, Kevin Short.
Have you finished it yet? Yes, I have finished it. My sister had taken on the job of calling my mother every day and asking her this question. The it was a can of Insure. You know, that thick, gummy nutritional supplement. Mother was to take a can a day. Unfortunately, this was met with fierce resistance because she hated drinking that crap, as she called it. Now, about a week into this process, instead of hearing Mother's usual curt reply, there was a loud clank on the other end of the phone. And then my father's voice. Yep, I think she's finished it. She just hurled the empty can at the door. Mother. Even then, she had her fiery spirit. But she was dying. I remember as a child being haunted by the fear of losing my mother. And now, as that moment was nearing, I wasn't sure how I was going to handle such tragedy. Over the last few months, her body had been given out. But with Christmas approaching, she made a deal with my dad that she was going to live until our family gathering the first week in January. Mom and Dad had been married for 72 years. Yeah, 72 years of shared life, shared routines, shared devotion. Despite her resistance, the insurer pulled her through, and she made it to the family party. And that Saturday afternoon, 30 people showed up to pay their final respects to Mom. Now, when it came my partner Jack's turn to have his special moment with her, she leaned in and she said, "Jack, they tell me I'm dying." Well, he was a little taken aback by her frankness, and he looked around at the boisterous chaos. There were 4 generations, babies, children, aunts and uncles. He turned back to Mom and he said, "Well, Ione, you certainly know how to make an exit." That evening, when she arrived home from the party, my sister offered her her medication. Put up her hand and said, "God, no, I'm finished with all that." And she was. No more pills, no more insure. She died the very next day. Now, with all the focus on Mum, what we hadn't anticipated was losing Dad as well. I mean, he'd always been the strong one, taking care of her, getting her out of bed, helping her to the bathroom. But when she died, he lost his will to live. In their 72 years, they had rarely been apart. And it was like his heart was so intertwined with hers that he couldn't imagine going on alone. He was quite calm about it. "Look it, I'm 95 years old. I've had a great life. But now that your mother's gone, I'm ready for it to end." And it was like he willed himself to die. There's something called broken heart syndrome. And it's not just like a new age term. It's actually a real medical condition. When someone, especially an elderly person, experiences an extreme emotional shock, like losing their partner, the body releases a surge of stress hormones that can overwhelm and literally break their heart. He had to go to the hospital in an ambulance, where his heart was beating at 180, accompanied by severe arrhythmia. Even heavily medicated, his body wouldn't regulate. He died exactly 4 weeks after Mother. It was true. He'd had a good, long life. Not always easy. When he was 13, his father was struck by lightning in the house. And his body was so damaged that he was never able to go to the field again. Now, most teenagers are concerned about getting their homework done. Dad had to quit school in grade 8 and found himself alone, plowing the fields with teams of horses, delivering breech bursts, and rushing to get the crops in before the weather turned. 13 years old. But he had a strong determination, and he met his problems head on. So, when he met my mother at a dance and discovered that she already had a boyfriend, he was not deterred. No, he simply considered this a mere scheduling problem. By the end of the night, he had positioned himself as her ride home, and the rascal even tried to steal a kiss. I got a slap instead. As far as the boyfriend, thankfully for us kids, he did not survive. And so began Mom and Dad's long voyage together, anchored in love, laughter, fierce family loyalty, and relentless hard work. Dad persevered with his prideful work ethic and became a very successful dairy farmer. Although he never allowed his pride to stand in the way of allowing himself to be influenced by his kids, particularly his daughters. The summer he had the barn painted, he thought the sign on the front should read, Elmer Short and Sons. Now, in a family of 7, 4 of them women, brave move. And frankly, just bad math. My elder sister, Kathy, took immediate offense, and not quietly, full-fledged mutiny on behalf of the women. This is so unfair. The evening, or the day that the sign was to be put up, Dad asked the man to hold off while he went into the house and he got Kathy. He walked her out to the middle of the lane, and together they watched as the final letters went up. And there it was. Elmer Short and family. We were the only farm in the entire community to have such a sign. And possibly the only farm in the province where the women so successfully unionized. My sisters definitely got their fire from my mother. The work that woman could do. Pitching in for the haying, helping out with the harvest, tending a huge vegetable garden, the cooking, the cleaning, and every school day, packing 5 lunches. One morning, while she was milking the cows at 6 in the morning, she went into labor with me. Imagine, 9 months pregnant and still milking cows. Anyways, she decided to ignore the pains because she still had several loads of wash waiting for her. But in the end, I won out. Most of us were with her the evening she died. As she slowly lost consciousness and her breath became labored and uneven. Finally, there's what they call the death rattle, a sound that doctors prepare families for. We were at the end. That's when my sister Kelly said, I think we should give her some Vicks. My mother had this fixation with Vicks Vapor Rub. She always kept a little jar by her chair, and she'd dab a little under her nose and some on her chin. Oh, she just loved the smell of it. One of those little old lady things. So Kelly did exactly that. A little under her nose, a little on her chin. It took a moment, but you could see it when she smelled it. Her face softened, and she took her last breath. Her death was so different than what I imagined. It wasn't tragic, it was strangely beautiful. Although, I'm not quite sure what to make of that last moment, but I will say this. If my sister comes anywhere near you with Vicks Vapor Rub, you might want to run. Thank you. Okay, well, that's a wrap. But before we go, can we have one more big round of applause for our incredible storyteller? Now, for all of their courage and effort they put into bringing their stories alive for you today. But I want you to know, you're not off the hook. Because now that you've seen how it's done, I know you guys have stories to tell. And yes, it's a little scary up here. But you know what an opportunity to burst beyond your boundaries and feel alive. So, if we do this again, I'm coming for you. All right. Thanks again for being such a great audience. Good night, everyone.